a video on fermenting. So I don't know why I thought about doing this. Oh no, yes I do. I know why I do. I thought about doing this. So I thought about fermenting some peppers, but the skin on peppers is horrible. So I was kind of thinking, well, if I wanted to ferment them, I'd have to peel the peppers. So I have on the barbecue outside. I've roasted the peppers and then put them in a container and then it steams them and then it gets rid of. Then you can peel the skin off relatively easy. But that kills all the bacteria and yeast and things. I've forgotten which bacteria it is that causes fermentation. Maybe I didn't even know it in the first place. But roasting them has killed that natural bacteria that's on the peppers. So I'm going to mix them with some onions. So it's equal kind of quantities of peppers and onions, and the onions will ferment, and hopefully there'll be enough onion fermenting bacteria in there to ferment the peppers as well. Hopefully we'll kind of quite see. So fermenting is pretty straightforward. You don't wash the vegetables. Well, you do to get rid of any excess water, but you hopefully relying on the natural bacteria that are present to ferment. So it's a 2% salt to whatever vegetables you've got. So, and we're going to mash that up. So there is about 900 grams. So if you work on the fact that 2% is 2 grams per every 100 grams worth of vegetables. So there is about 950 grams worth of combined weight. So that's about 19 grams of salt. I put all the salt in there because we're going to mash those together to kind of bruise them, which will speed up the fermenting process. I don't want to mash up the peppers. I don't want to kind of puree them because they'll go a bit too soft. But we can mash up the onions, and then we'll kind of see when that happens. And then I'm also, because I've got sprouts left over from Christmas, I've got raw sprouts left over from Christmas that I don't know what I was going to do with. So we're going to have a go. I've sliced the sprouts as well, and then I'm going to do the same process of, so I suppose like a sauerkraut, because they're all part of the same family, cabbages and sprouts and things. I'm going to see what sprout sauerkraut is like. So was the 800 grams? I can't remember what there is, but I put the salt in there already. And then we're going to scrunch it all together, and then we're going to form a sauerkraut. But I'll do it with, I'm not going to do it with both, but we'll start the process off with the onions. So the salt's already in there. So some of the liquid is already starting to come out of the onions, and then it's just a simple case of scrunching the onions to get liquid to come out of them. And then we'll use that liquid to submerge the vegetables underneath the brine type of thing, and then that will start the fermenting process. As you can see already, it's starting to become kind of quite wet. So it's just a case of squeezing for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, to kind of start bruising everything and breaking it all down. So, and I need to probably do a little bit more squeezing than usual because it's just the onions that we're bruising up that we're going to get the liquid out of. So just an interesting experiment. So I'll carry on doing the onions, and then I'll do the sprouts as well, and then we're back at the process of putting things in jars. So I've mixed the onions with the peppers, and I put them in the jar. It was difficult to press them down because they're kind of quite slippery. Once you've squeeze the juice out of them. So I've had to put a little bit of, I put some cling film on top of that. I put some water on as well because I wasn't using quite enough liquid. So hopefully that will work. But it's normally okay if there isn't enough liquid to add a little bit of water. As long as you've got the right kind of amount of salt in there, it should be fine. And then I've done the same with the sprout. I'll move that out of the way. And I've done the same with the sprouts. So squeeze them together, and then kind of lots of the water kind of separates out of the sprouts, or the salt draws the water out of the sprouts. And I packed it down into the bottom of this jar. So you just got to, as you pack them down, you've got to squeeze out the excess water, and then like You can see the water coming out there, and then you pack it down into the jar like this. I've made a video on sauerkraut before, and it's pretty straightforward. So, and then it's just a case of getting all that out there. You're best off with jars that you can get your hands into, which is kind of quite. If I ever find jars this kind of size, I always buy them, or if I know people who use jars like this, I always ask if they can save them for me, because they're just kind of easy to have, good to have jars that kind of size. So we pack the sprouts down into there, and then we pour the liquid from the sprouts on top, like this. Getting those bits of sprouts as well. And then I'm going to put a bit of cling film on top, just to create a bit of a water lock. Is that the right kind of phrase? Get that out of the way. Wash your hands. Just so it's no other kind of floating yeast or bacteria kind of get into there. And it's just going to be the natural yeast that were already on the vegetables. So that's cling film. Then in half, just to keep the vegetables submerged under the water. Well, the brine as it is really. So carefully push it down, and then I'm going to clean down the edges of the inside of the jar as well, just to remove any bits of vegetables, just to kind of stop them from wanting to go mouldy, which will ruin the sauerkraut. And then I'm going to leave it in this for however long it takes. So depending on the time of year, and depending on the temperature and where you leave it, depends on how long it takes. So I need a bit of cloth. So just a bit of kitchen roll, just to get rid of those bits of vegetable around there. So then I'm going to go mouldy and turn the sauerkraut off. Well, is it sauerkraut? I'm using sprouts, so is it still going to be sauerkraut? Is sauerkraut the vegetable that you use, or is it the method? No, because the method's fermentation, isn't it? I don't know. But anyway, fermented sprouts. So keep an eye on that. I'll put it on the out of direct sunlight. If it needs a little bit more water, that'll be fine. I'll just add a little bit more water. And what will happen will which way? Yeah, so more liquid will come out of the cabbage. There'll be more liquid here, and then when it's ready, the cabbage reabsorbs that liquid. From what I remember, because it's years since I made some sauerkraut. So fingers crossed. I'm sure it will work. We'll have a look at it in a few days' time. I will add. I've just had to put a bit of water in on the sprouts, because the liquid wants to soak back into the vegetables. So I'll just have to keep an eye on that. Yeah, so I was thinking about the taste of it. So sprouts aren't, I don't know, like raw cabbage isn't as harsh as a sprout. So I was a little bit concerned about how the sprouts would actually turn out, but I've tasted them when they were sliced and raw and kind of and squeezed, and kind of they're nice. So I think it won't be like a too strong a flavour. I think if you use like a darker green, something like a Cabernet Nero, it's not, from what I understand, it's not as nice a sauerkraut. It's certainly more like a lot stronger kind of flavour, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. So I was kind of worried that maybe the sprouts were going to be a little bit like that, but I don't think. I think we'll be okay. So I might actually. I've got more sprouts. Just kind of show you how much more sprouts I've got. I've got quite a lot. So I've got lots of sprouts that aren't going to be doing much for what we call it, for you know, I'm not going to really be able to use those up, so I don't want to put them on the compost. You know, I would just put them on the compost. I'm not going to waste them, so they kind of like get used up that way. So I might just turn them all into sauerkraut, but maybe we'll kind of have to see. Depends if I can use them up somewhere, but I don't think so. So I might end up turning them all into sauerkraut. But there we go. Right. So we have the sprouts are starting to ferment because we have bubbles. So I've had to add more water to that. I think they were just a bit old, so they dried themselves out a little bit and lost some of the moisture. So I had to add some more water on the top, but you can see, you might be able to see a bubble rise now and again. They were quite old sprouts as well, maybe 3 weeks old, so there was certainly a lot of bacteria in there that's going to start the fermentation process already naturally. So they've kind of started quickly. Peppers, there might be 1 or 2 bubbles forming, but it's kind of quite slow. But what I thought I'd do is I will take some of the juice from the top of there and we'll put it in there, and then that will introduce some of the good bacteria that we want, and that will speed up the fermentation process of that. Don't want to add too much of that water because it will taste sprouty, and I don't want that to taste sprouty at all. But anyway, so that's a quick update. Oh, and also I remembered that you need to put something on top of the cling film just to kind of weigh it down. So I'm just using a couple of bottles that fit in the top of the lids. But anyway, that's that. I forget how long this might take. 2 weeks, something like that. But does it smell? It feels a little bit fermenty, but that will certainly get a lot stronger in the next few days. The peppers and the sprouts have been going for about 10 days. The sprouts, it's working. It's fermenting. I can smell it when I stick my nose just in that little gap there. I've just got that water on there to weigh it down. But nothing seems to much be happening with the peppers. There's a few bubbles in there, and this is puffed up slightly, so it kind of suggests that maybe that something's kind of going on. But I was thinking that maybe we should have a look at it. It doesn't smell very vinegary or fermenty. Well, vinegar is not the right word. I think I still haven't looked up if adding salt creates an alkali, and if fermenting is like sauerkraut is an alkali. But anyway, so maybe something's kind of happening. I don't want to pull the top back unless it's got some mould on it, but let's have a look. Let's pull the cling film back, and then we'll put some fresh cling film off, and we'll kind of have a look and see if anything's kind of happening. That's going to go on there, and we'll kind of change. Let's have a spoon. It's awful if it poisons me and all that kind of stuff. It's been 10 days, so I'm just kind of curious. Although I was having a think about onions, and I think onions are antiseptic. So, taste. Well, it's not gone off. It's not gone off. So, I don't know. Maybe put some. It's not unpleasant. We'll put some cling film back on that, and then we'll carry on leaving it and see what happens. But yeah, so onions are. I'm sure they're an antiseptic. I've heard that somewhere. Where did I hear it? Oh yeah, it was a few years back. Like old people in the UK couldn't afford to go to the dentists, so there was this old lady on the news, and she'd pulled one of her teeth out, but she chewed an onion first to kind of disinfect her mouth before she pulled the tooth out, and then she put a bit of onion in the tooth thing. I'm sure she was fine. She's probably not fine now because it was like 10 years ago, and she was in her 80s then. So I can't imagine she's still with us, but I can't imagine it was the tooth that did it. But anyway, I'm off track. So that's that. We'll recover that and see how it goes. Oh yes, and I did add some of the fermenting liquid from the sprouts into the into the peppers. Can I start it off? Okay. And I have started some more. I did some more sprouts as well. So these have been going for about 10 days. So that looks like it's okay actually, but we'll just change the cling film because I'm just kind of quite curious. It's been like a year since I did some sauerkraut. What generally tends to happen is that the sauerkraut wants to suck up the liquid that's you've squeezed out of it. So we'll give it a taste. Well, that tastes like sauerkraut. You'd never guess that was sprouts. You'd never guess that was sprouts. That's nice as that. That's nice as that. What we're going to do with that, I don't know. Do I want it to be a little bit more sauerkrauty? Yeah, let's leave it for a little bit longer. So we'll wipe around, put some fresh cling film on, and then we'll let it ferment for a little bit longer. So that's that. But I'll get it. I'll get it over. I mean, I had quite a lot of sprouts left from Christmas, so I've made a big old jar. So I think we need to repack that one down as well. So this was maybe a couple of days later. This has been going back for 8 days, and I've made loads of sauerkraut in that jar. That jar is kind of that big. So we'll get another fork. It's a criminal waste of cling film, but I'm pretty good with plastic waste, so it's kind of a little bit forgivable. So we'll have a look at this. There should be something you can buy, like a disc of plastic. Yeah, I bet I could make something. That's kind of like a disc of reusable plastic for these type of projects. So we'll press it down before we have a taste, and then we'll clean up the jars, and then we'll put some cling film back on top and a bit of a weight. Yeah, it's okay. Not as ready as that one. So, but anyway, that's the update. Successful and delicious considering the sprouts, eh? Who'd have guessed that? But I suppose, yeah, they're all brassicas, aren't they? Sprouts and cabbages. This is okay. We'll see how it goes. Let's give it another taste. Taste the peppers and the onions. Not very fermented, but that might be down to the onions. That might be down to the smoke, because I did char the outside of the pepper, so maybe that's had some kind of, yeah. So carbon has effects on acids and alkalis, doesn't it? Or does it? I think I seem to think it does. But anyway, so those are delicious. That needs a little bit more time. So, at last, we have fermentation, which is, I'm just focusing on that. You can see the bubbles forming around the top there. We have fermentation, and some bubbles that kind of want to kind of keep bubbling up. So we have fermentation. So that's good. I don't know if it will be alcohol fermentation or it will be like like a sauerkraut kind of fermentation, because it is, onions and peppers are sweet, so there is kind of sugar in there. So I don't know if the salt will have compensated for that. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. There you go. So you can kind of see as I move it around, the bubbles kind of want to pop up. And then I think the sprouts are ready. So I had a sniff the other day, and it was smelling very sauerkrauty. Yeah, it's smelling very sauerkrauty. So I think those are ready. So shall we pause? And it did taste a bit sauerkrauty, and I did have to add some extra water. So normally when the vegetable that you're fermenting kind of sucks up the water that you kind of squeezed out of it in the first place, you kind of know that it's ready. So I did add extra water to that, and I did put some of that water in there to kind of start the fermentation process going. So, I think that's ready. I'll pause and we'll give it a bit of a try. Right, so let's give this a bit of a try. I think it will be ready. That's definitely sauerkraut. It's quite mild as well. So that's definitely ready. I just need to decide what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to leave it for a few more days, or if I'm going to put a lid on it and put it in the fridge. That's definitely ready. So sprout, sauerkraut certainly works. Yeah, that's it. So a bit of an update, but that's certainly ready. The other one that I made as well, let's have a look at that. So this is the bigger container, so we'll just have a, you have to tell by the juice. That one's wanted to suck the liquid back up. Yeah, that's ready as well. So they're both ready. I just need to go see how long I want to. I don't know, I'll do a bit of research and see if I need to. The longer I leave them, the more kind of sour they become. Or once they're ready, and then they kind of, I'm sure it's an alkali, I still haven't looked it up. If the alkali kind of stops the fermenting process. Yeah, it's fermented, isn't it? Yeah. So, but anyway, so obviously it gets to a certain alkali or acidic level that it kind of kills the bacteria that is kind of making it go further. Although it's a live thing, isn't it? I don't know. We'll see. Right. Let's have a look at the peppers. So the sprouts have stopped fermenting. Well, I fermented as much as I wanted them to ferment. So I'm kind of quite happy to have those in the fridge. But so these have now probably been fermenting as much as the sprouts had been fermenting before I put them in the fridge. Put some fresh plastic on. So what does it smell like? It looks like it's... We're getting some bubbles rising. And that's what I'll do. So if we release all the bubbles that are down there, and then next time I have a look at it, we'll be able to see if we're still kind of fermenting, but I'm not entirely sure. But we'll have a look. So, how does it smell? It smells like roasted peppers. Am I going to taste it? Yes. It's certainly gone. It's certainly on the... No, is it? I still haven't looked if it's acid or alkali. It's certainly going sour, so which would suggest that it is fermenting. Not particularly the best looking thing in the world, but we'll see. We'll leave it even longer, shall we? So the red peppers and onions have been fermenting for a couple of months, and I have noticed that there is a white residue on the top of the peppers. I've researched it, and apparently it's yeast, so it's not poisonous, but research says that it might not just taste particularly nice. So let's carefully pull that back, get rid of the cling film on the top of there, and then we'll give, it doesn't smell horrible, it doesn't smell particularly yeasty, but the bowl will be fine, but I just don't want to, I just want to see what's going to happen with it. So some some of it's ended up in there. Give it a smell. It smells alright. Oh. It smells a little bit alcoholic fermented-y. Everything's looking quite crunchy. So I'll taste and see. Yeah, it tastes alright. It doesn't taste anything spectacular. So I don't know what I could use it for. I don't know. It tastes a little bit fermenty. It's nothing particularly special. It's obviously preserved. You know, like it's properly preserved. It's not. It's been out for a couple of months. It hasn't been refrigerated, and it's preserved itself. So it preserves. But it's a bit unremarkable. I don't know. It's alright, I think. What I'll do is I'll cover it and I'll put it in the fridge. And then we'll have a think about what we're going to do with it. I might cook with it. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't know what it was. I don't kind of know what I was expecting from it anyway. So we'll put a lid on it, we'll put it in the fridge and we'll have a think about what we're going to do. I might cook it. But it's not remarkably amazing. Remarkably amazing. It's not. You get the same result with just adding a little bit of vinegar to the peppers and onions. Yeah. Well, no. I might cook with it. I might do something with it. We'll see if I'm alive in the morning. So, I have decided what I'm going to do with it, and I am going to cook it. So, it doesn't look anything special. I'm never going to eat it, but if I cook it, it'll be nice with eggs. Right? Might need a bit more acidity to it, but I'm going to cook it. So I'm going to chop it up a bit. I'm going to chop it a bit smaller. Yeah, I'm going to chop it up a bit smaller. So we'll squeeze the juice out, and then chop it up a bit smaller, and then we're going to cook it in the pan just to make it a little bit more tender. And then I think it'd be nice with eggs or as a filling for something else. It works. It's just yeah, it definitely works. It's definitely turned to it's definitely fermented. You know, it's just that I'm not going to use it for anything. So it works. It takes a little bit longer, and I think certainly adding some of the fermenting juice from the sprout sauerkraut, that certainly worked. So I'll squeeze out excess juice, chop up, because if I don't squeeze out the excess juice, it's just going to be a running mess of liquid kind of everywhere. So we'll squeeze the juice out, and then we'll cook it down, and then we'll kind of see how it tastes. We'll maybe add a bit more salt and pepper. So, juice squeezed out into the pan, heating it up, and then I've just chopped up the peppers and onions, and then we'll make like a bit of a simple kind of chutney, I think, with it, because there's certainly enough. Or is it acid or alkali? I forget. With fermenting, I think it's an alkali. So we'll see. Yeah, I think salt's an alkali. So we added salt to it, so therefore I'm presuming it's an alkali. So those in there like that. Spoon. And we'll just cook it. Try it out, concentrate it. We're going to see what happens. Pepper for sure. I mean, any kind of good bacterial growth is now going to be killed because of the heating process, but I don't want it in its raw state. I think if we cook it, it'll just be a little bit more interesting. So, up to temperature, cook off some of that liquid, and then we'll see what it tastes like. Right, cooked enough. I've added some more pepper. I've got really quite a lot of the juice, so it's concentrated in flavour. Nice and acidic. So we'll put it in a container, and then we'll cook it with some eggs and some, a bit steamy, and some chickpeas, and we'll have it on a bit of a sourdough tomorrow morning for breakfast. And we'll see how it turns out. Bit of a faff, if I'm honest. Bit of a faff, but it's all just a bit of fun, isn't it? Right, chickpeas are cooked and heating up. I'll put in some peppers and some onions. That much. Would have liked a little bit more juice actually, but cross that bridge when we get to it. Actually, I'll put some more. Juice from the chickpeas. Certainly going to want some pepper. I've fried this sourdough. A little bit of salt. And then turmeric. That much. And then turn it down with a couple of eggs. Need to blow my nose as well. That's better. Right. The secret with eggs is to turn off the heat before they're cooked, because they carry on cooking in the pan. So you keep stirring them around, and the residual heat will cook the eggs but not overcook them. Same kind of idea as when you're making like a thickener sauce with eggs, or making custard, that sort of thing. So that looks good. We'll give it a try. Delicious. There we go. So, peppers weren't a huge success. Like, it's not something I go into the fridge and eat, but we turned this into something delicious which we can have for breakfast. Well done me.